The Last Dance. The red neon lights buzzed outside the rundown club, flickering intermittently as if they, too, were exhausted. Inside, the music pulsed like a heartbeat, drowning the chatter of desperate men and the occasional clinking of glasses. Among the performers was Crystal, the club's star attraction. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. Every movement of hers told a story, a tragic one perhaps, but one that left the audience entranced. It was an ordinary night, or so it seemed. The regulars were in their usual seats, the smoke curled lazily in the dim lighting, and the air was thick with perfume and sweat. But when the clock struck midnight, something changed. A man sat alone in the darkest corner of the club. He was tall, dressed in a crisp black suit, and despite the heat inside, he wore gloves. Crystal noticed him immediately. His stillness set him apart. She had been stripping long enough to recognize the different types of men who frequented such places. Some came for escape, some for company, some for the illusion of love. But this man, he was something else entirely. Her set began. As the music played, she moved with practiced ease, twirling, teasing, and seducing with every sway of her hips. But her eyes kept drifting toward the man in the corner. He never blinked, never moved, never even took a sip of the drink before him. As she descended from the stage, a message was slipped into her hand by a fellow dancer. It was written in bold, uneven letters. One last dance. Room 6. Midnight. Crystal hesitated. Private rooms weren't unusual, but something about this felt wrong. She glanced at the corner, but the man was gone. Her stomach twisted, but curiosity won over caution. Pushing open the heavy door of room 6, she was met with darkness. The only source of light was the flickering bulb overhead, casting erratic shadows along the walls. The air was cold, unnaturally so. Then she heard the door click shut behind her. She turned sharply. He stood just inches away, silent and unmoving. Up close, his skin seemed pale, almost translucent, and his eyes were voids of blackness. "I don't do anything extra," she said, masking her nerves with practiced bravado. He tilted his head slightly. "Just dance." The words were soft, almost mechanical. Crystal exhaled and began to move, her routine automatic. But as she danced, the air grew heavier, as if something unseen was pressing against her. The walls seemed to close in. The music from the club outside became muffled, distant. She spun to face the man again. He was gone. Her heart pounded. The only sound was her own breathing. She turned to the door, reaching for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The room was freezing now, her breath visible in the air. A whisper echoed around her, though she saw no mouth to form it. Last dance. Something brushed her shoulder, cold, clammy, and unnatural. She jerked away, spinning in circles, but there was no one there. The shadows lengthened unnaturally, slithering toward her like living things. She pounded on the door, screaming, but no one seemed to hear. Then the mirror on the far wall caught her eye. Her reflection wasn't moving. Her breath hitched. She lifted a shaking hand. The reflection stayed still, watching with a malevolent grin. It tilted its head in that same eerie manner as the man had. Then, without warning, it lunged. A cold, unseen force yanked her toward the glass. She fought, clawing at the walls, but her limbs were weak, as if the air itself was siphoning her strength. The reflection's grin widened, its mouth opening impossibly large, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Crystal let out a final scream as she was pulled into the glass, her body vanishing into the abyss. The door to room 6 creaked open. A club bouncer, alerted by the silence, stepped in. The room was empty, save for the faint scent of Crystal's perfume lingering in the air. He frowned, then turned toward the mirror. A dancer stood within its depths, hands pressed against the glass, mouth open in a silent scream. And in the darkest corner of the club, a man in black smiled, waiting for his next dance.